Shadow World, the film Shadow World, which is inspired on the book The Shadow World by Andrew Feinstein, is a research into the corruption of the global arms trade.
They wanted £43 billion worth of weaponry. That was £6 billion in commissions.
While making this film, the story of this film was bouncing back and forth between Andrew Feinstein, the writer, who's the investigative journalist, and here me as a filmmaker, the storyteller, and sort of siding with the poet. And I always wanted that element also in the film. Yeah, the biggest part was the translation from the book to the film. The book is not the film. And not only you have to distill a story where you can take people on a journey for 90 minutes, but on top of that you have to have a visual translation and an emotional translation, I thought. And so there's two templates that we distilled out of the book. One is that from the very beginning, the first chapter in the book already starts with Boris Sakharov, the arms dealer in the First World War, that actually he's not just dealing to one party, he's dealing to both parties. In a sense, this is not about ethics, this arms dealing, but it's about making as much profit. And so if you deal to both parties, you extend the war so you make more profit. This is one template. Second template is that these are not like shady people in the shadows, I thought. These are not shady arms dealers. This happens in the highest echelons of power. So the biggest players in this defense sort of business are actually the politicians. And so the protagonists we're having here in this film are the likes of Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, Tony Blair, but even Barack Obama. In a sense, the juxtaposition we sort of like would try to point at in this film was between fear and love. We actually interviewed Frans de Waal, who wrote a book on empathy, kindness for society, who says actually that, you know, maybe we were living oxymoron, like bouncing back and forth between aggression and love. And he says really like we're maybe a living contradiction. When we're good, we're very good. When we're bad, we're extremely bad. We also wanted to show what that arms trade does to the rest of the world. So what it does to the global south. So we have people like Vijay Prashad talking about the global south and killing of the dream of the South. We have Marta Benavides also, who was a guerrilla fighter, left or right arm of Archbishop Romero in El Salvador, talking about what that does to her country. Or Muntazar al-Zaidi, who threw the shoe at Bush, who, you know, very rightfully so, who says, you know, well, Bush was always saying we will greet him with flowers, but we did not. We bid him farewell with shoes.
لكي يستيقظ العالم أمام هذه الجرائم.
Well, ironically, this is a film about corruption, but there's so much material about corruption. It tries to hide in the shadows, but there's so much stuff. So that was a big problem because we had too much material. And we actually interviewed 50 people, or only 15 made it into the film. But, you know, the toughest part was to get arms dealers in front of the camera. So here we have a subject matter that prefers to stay in the shadows. But then, you know, working through the material, we came to realize that actually they're not hiding in the shadows, they're the emperors without clothes.
We had their secretary of the embassy come and review the photos, and he said, I want this one, I want this one, I want this one, I want this one. I had the girls arrive one day before. I said, girls, I know you've all been paid handsomely for this, but do me a favor. If you get any pillow talk that is relevant, please bring it across, because I could use it. And for each interesting information, I will give another 2,000 euro bonus. So with 60 grand, I signed the contract worth 3 million. So it wasn't a bad deal.
What I thought was surprising is that when we sent a rough cut to the commissioning editors, that they didn't have problems with all the stuff about the corruption, but they had problems with sort of talking about love. People felt uncomfortable with it. Well, the whole Trump-Hillary debate is sort of a fake debate. I think Hillary was in bed with 9 of the big 10 defense companies, and maybe it would have been worse because she does it under the table. It wouldn't have helped also with the whole crisis in the bank industry because she was in bed with Goldman Sachs. So it wouldn't necessarily have helped. If I would have voted for a woman, I would have chosen Jill Stein from the Green Party.
We have to get going.
Okay, sorry. But are we good?